Hello, my name is Rich Howard, owner of Architectural Builders Supply. This video is to bring you a closer look at the major HIT-49. It's called Drillmaster 3, is what it's called. I don't know if there's a Drillmaster 2 and 4. There very likely is. But I'll tell you, all kidding aside, every time that I review a major item, I'm always impressed with the fit and finish. It's a good looking tool. It's something that looks really nice. Tools that you use to prep hardware onto doors, wood, steel, fiberglass, whatever it is, they're never inexpensive. And there's usually more than one tool that will do the same job, but there's always one tool that does it better than the rest. And the major line kind of fits that. They make really nice looking tools. They're always heavy. They always seem very robust, in that they can handle years of shop use, years of shop and field use. And in fact, that's how a lot of these tools were, or the major line was created. It was the self-described tool nerd with an engineering background at Major, came up with a lot of this material, and it's really good stuff. This concept of the HIT-49 is not unique. I've reviewed lots of lock template kits by different manufacturers, and many of them employ these two sort of rotating threaded threaded rod type of knob and rod type of application to get it to clamp down onto the door. But this one, compared to others, is definitely going to be above grade, above average, something that you feel like you're going to be able to make work. So that's what the HIT-49 is in a general sense. What it is specifically is a tool that's going to allow you to drill 2 1/8 inch holes or 1.5 inch holes at either 2 3/8 or 2 3/4 back set. Give you that 1 inch prep in the edge of the door as well. So in the sense of being a kit or a lock installation jig or template, and in terms of its flexibility, you're going to do lots and lots of your regular installations with this. No, it doesn't do 5 inch back set. Okay. No, it doesn't give you the ability to convert to a different diameter bit prep in the edge. So you're not going to do a 5 inch back set. You're not going to do a 3 3/4 back set. You're not going to do a 7 inch back set. Those all exist. But this is going to be 2 3/8 and 2 3/4, the regular commercial and residential that you'll bump into. If you're doing a 2 3/8 back set, you're going to have a 1 inch wide faceplate on the bolt or latch. I don't like to drill a 1 inch hole when I have a 1 inch wide plate because, well, you're always going to see a little belly around the center of that prep. Number two, the template doesn't call for a 1 inch hole in those 1 inch wide faceplates. They'll call for 15/16 or 7/8. So no, it doesn't give you that. But in today's day and age, if you're looking at this tool, you're likely a locksmith who does commercial locks, which means it's 1 1/8 wide, which means it's a 1 inch prep here. So having said that, this is probably going to do a lot of the work that you need to do. The conversion from 2 3/8 and 2 to 2 3/4 is simple and straightforward, and it's basically, and I'll show you in the instructions, these two hex cap bolts is what you're going to pull out. Right now it's set to 2 3/8. You pull those two bolts out and then it'll be set to 2 3/4. It has the two drill plates for the 2 1/8. It comes with the 1.5 inch that you would remove these 3 screws on both sides and then put the 1.5 inch on. What uses 1.5 inch? Well, deadbolts do, and in particular Schlage is the name. Their current 60 series, I believe, will go into an 1.5 inch deadbolt, and I'm sure that Schlage will always, or for the near future, continue to put deadbolts and bring them to market and give the ability to stick them into an 1.5 inch hole for two reasons. A lot of them already exist, 1.5 inch holes. A Schlage deadbolt from the 1960s that's in an 1.5 inch hole, well, Schlage would like to sell you a new deadbolt and allow you to stick that in the same hole. That's one. Number two, the logic about an 1.5 inch hole versus a 2 1/8 hole, which of these holes do I remove less wood? It's always going to be advantageous on all fronts to remove less of the door when accommodating hardware to the extent that's possible. What's stronger, a hole in the door or the door itself? You get the point, especially when you're adding auxiliary security hardware like a deadbolt. So that would be the two reasons. Let's talk about where specifically you'll use this and why I may not often use these. That would be the opinion part of this. So let's do that now. If you are enjoying this video, please click thumbs up or like, and also please consider subscribing to our channel. Let's move on to the rest of the video. So the folks that are using lock installation kits or jigs like this, whether it be by Major or the old A1 name, which is now Framan, or if it's ProLock, or if it's the Kwikset, which is discontinued but still some available, or Westlock, or the Porter Cable kit, or the Schlage kit, or the Best kit, and others who make lock installation aids, you're likely someone who has a need to drill them over and over, and not someone drilling it just once. Someone who's going to add a deadbolt to their garage door is not spending a few $100s on a kit, most likely. And if they are, they're probably buying an $18 plastic kit at the local home improvement store. And if you're an expert in the field, you're likely not using those $18 home improvement store kits because they don't last. They're basically one-time use for the most part. And what you want to do is you want to walk up to a door and you want to mark the center line and you want to clamp this thing on and you want to zip, 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 take it off and chisel, chisel, and you're done. Put the deadbolt on, go home, collect your check and leave. And to most people, the lock installation kit, like the HIT-49, allows you to accomplish that. You really have to get a lot less right in order for this to be completely successful. Really, the only thing that you have to get right is the vertical center line. And if you're adding a deadbolt, you're not matching anything. So where are you going to put it? Well, you're going to put it where your client wants it and where your experience tells you to put it. And that could be anywhere from 3 5/8 centers to, a 4-inch center, 5.5 center, 6-inch centers, 48-inch above the floor to the center, AFF to center line. Your client might say, no, I want one 12 inches from the top of the door and I want another one 18 inches from the bottom of the door, whatever the case might be. But this doesn't require that you measure the back set. This doesn't require that you worry about where you're going to place that drill bit, not only in the face of the door, but in the side. This takes all of that worry away from you in terms of getting it, just simply getting it right. Again, just the center line. You still have to do the work of chiseling or routing with a router, the faceplate for the latch or the bolt. And you have to prep the jamb for the strike unless you're drilling just a 1-inch hole. And if you are, we have thimble strikes to go in there. But fun fact, those aren't approved for fire doors. And if it's a fire door, you wouldn't be using this technically on that anyway. You would not be... that's an interesting thought. You can't drill holes greater than... I'd have to look at NFPA 80, but it's inch or inch and a... No, it would be inch and a quarter. You can't drill a hole larger than that for anything but cylinders. But the question becomes, is the deadbolt itself considered a cylinder where you're going to drill 1.5 inches? So you'd have to look at NFPA 80, and I've read it and forgotten it countless times. If it's a fire door, you're probably not prepping this in the field because it would technically violate the rating of the door. Now, my approach is I don't use these, and I find that they just take too much time. And I know that I have the minority position on that, but the way I do it is I just mark the top of the door, and the door is usually laying down like this, so I'm doing it in this orientation. I'll mark my center line, and then I've got a back set finder, and I'll place that little angle and mark the face of my door, mark the face of my door. And then what I'll do is use just a typical 2 1/8-inch bimetal hole saw. And I'll drill halfway through the door. I'll go to the other side and drill the other hole all the way through. I'll come with my 1-inch spade bit and drill that 1-inch hole, or 15/16 or 7/8 down to the 2 1/8. I'll take my Porter cable, I think it's a 517 template, clamp that down on the door, route that really quick with my small Porter cable router, my corner chisel, and I'm done. And the advantage for me is I've not spent a lot of money. 2 1/8 inch bimetal hole saws are inexpensive, and they last long when they're used in a wood door. A 1-inch spade bit in the edge of the door, those are really inexpensive. The only downside of the hole saw is you have to kind of get the core taken out of the center of that. So that's the hassle with the hole saw. But they're cheap. Very effective. The difference really comes in the fact is that I religiously measure twice and cut once. Without exception, I measure twice. Even when I know I'm right, I measure twice and cut once. So I don't make the sort of backset error or hole diameter error that could be made because I'm really paying attention to what I'm doing. And this tool, arguably, is superior to my method because I would think not everyone measures twice and cuts once. Or you, as the foreman, owner, end user, whatever your role is, you might be ordering 2 of these or 3 of these and giving them to employees and saying, okay, we've got 42 doors to drill. I will see you in 3 hours. Get after it. This allows them to be able to move quicker because we don't have to measure as much and just drill, you know. And if, quite frankly, if you wanted to get fancier about it, you could also think about ways to even make this easier. You know, how would I go about doing that? Well, what's going to take me time measuring the top of the door, and if I'm plus or minus 1/8 of an inch, it truly doesn't matter because it just doesn't. I might take a couple of pieces of furring strips and build myself a little cane-shaped sort of gizmo that I can just place on the top of the door, and I'll bring my template and just flush it right up to the bottom of that. Don't disturb it, tighten it down, and you know your dimension is well within accuracy for your application. So figuring out ways to make the process faster and eliminating the possibility for errors where the HIT-49 really comes in. By the way, I love the black anodized aluminum. It just looks really great. They do laser engraving or etching on other tools that they have. It's not on any of the aluminum here. They do, you know, this molded knob does say HIT-49 in major on it, Anaheim, California. But I'll tell you again, the build quality just seems really great. So the next step of this, let me back up. I've explained why I think people use it and how I go about doing it, and I've acknowledged my way is best for me, and that's often not the best way for everyone. But I have used these kits in the past, and you know, there's no reason I would not suggest you not use one, and the arguments for using them certainly outweigh the arguments of the fact that a 2 1/8 inch hole saw is a lot less expensive than a carbide tipped multi-spur 2 1/8. Let's switch to the screen view, and the purpose of doing so is to go over the installation instructions, which are included. It's a packet is what it is, and part of the reason that it's a packet is because Major likes to use a really nice font. That's great. I would think that they know their audience with using a larger font, and there's pictures at every step of the way. The rest of the, you've got your drill plates. These are your 1.5 inch. The only other thing that's going to be in here is going to be a couple of Allen wrenches and additional screws. I can't say exactly what those screws are used for because I would imagine that you're going to reuse these 3, but that would be the only place where you'd use those. The small Allen wrench will go for these screws, and the bigger one is how you control your backset, 2 3/8 or 2 3/4. So switching to the screen view now, we're going to go over the instructions. Let's do that right now. If you've not hit subscribe yet, we would very much appreciate if you did, and hopefully you're enjoying this video. Now, let's get back to it. All right, let's dive into this review of the item. Extended description, Drillmaster 3 Cylindrical Lock Drill Guide, designed to be used with standard hole saws. I'd say no to that. Well, no to the edge. You're not going to get a hole saw down there. You're going to use an auger bit. It's probably what you would use. In here, yeah, you could probably use a hole saw, for sure. But you'd use an auger bit over here. Yeah, supplied with replaceable hole saw guides for 1.5 and 2 1/8 inch. Door range, okay, I didn't mention that earlier. It'll go down to 1 3/8 thick, all the way out to 2.5 inch thick. and adjustable for 2 3/8 and 2 3/4. Again, includes the breakout plates. Drill bits are not included. Anodized black finish, which means it's aluminum, or much of it's, much of it's aluminum. Let's do the installation instructions, and then we'll go to the product brochure. So, well, first of all, there's the factory image identifying the items. And this is going to be a principle of tightening it down with the main clamp knob, and then using the cantilever knob, which really acts to suck it down onto the door so that it doesn't move on you. Let's look at some images first. Here's the label on the box. The contents, that's everything that's in the box. Drill plates, cantilever knob, back set, bolts. Obviously it's in position right now for 2 3/8. And now just different perspectives on the item. And I'll tell you, there is something that I don't... There is room for improvement, if I can be so audacious as to say that. The people running Major, they're exceptional. The room for improvement for me would be... Yeah, definitely. They could easily do it. But what you have to do is figure out where you're going to put this on the door. And what I mean is, well, if you're going to kind of eyeball it, you're fine. But there is no indication. If I'm going to be at... if I'm going to be at 32 and 11/16, top of the door to the center line. 32 and 7/16, top of the door to center line. If it's a 6/8, let's say. Or pick a dimension. How do I know where the center line of my template is? No, there's nowhere on here that tells you what the center line of your template is. You could, I suppose, consider the center line of this, because that's probably the center line of the template. If they were to etch a V-groove into these arms, you could then, within reason, be able to measure from the top of the door down and with your pencil mark a line and just line that up. But there's nowhere to do it. Or if somehow the center line of your guides were indicated what the center line was, that would be nice as well. But there is no provision for that. Or if there was some way to do it in the edge of the door as well, you could just mark on the edge of the door. Ideally what you want to do is mark the door to place the template in such a way that you're not erasing anything and your pencil mark is about to be drilled off. And that's what I like to do. So I wouldn't put a long pencil line on the door. I'm just going to have to erase that. And gosh, if you forget to erase it and somebody gets a door with pencil marks on it, depending on the person you're bringing that door to, that may be no big deal, and it may be a real big deal. So don't leave pencil marks on the door at all, just as a rule. So just showing you the different perspectives of the tool. This reverse thread on the main knob is going to draw the plates together or separate them. Obviously here it's at its minimum dimension, and that's how the tool is here basically in front of me. And when I measure it, yeah, it'll go to 1 3/8 for sure. Realistically, it'll even go a little bit tighter than that. But as I open up the tool, and I'm going to do that quickly right now to confirm the width that this will, or the door thickness maximum. Yeah, they say 2.5. It'll go thicker than that. You can probably get it to 2 3/4. So it'll handle pretty much any door you're going to bump into. That's to be sure. Your 2 drill guides, just one turned over so you can see both sides for the 1.5 inch diameter. Your Allen wrenches, as I mentioned earlier, some additional screws, and then your installation instructions. Okay, now, installation instructions, let's hop into those right now. If you've made it this far into this video, you must be determined to see it through to the end, and we appreciate your hanging in there with us and watching this entire video. It means a lot. It takes a lot of work to create these videos in the sense that, it's time taken away from doing other things. However, the advantage for me personally of creating these videos is the fact that it does allow myself to either learn about something new, to reacquaint myself with something or to reinforce what I believe that I already know. Any comments that you might leave down below would be greatly appreciated. Thank you. Okay, installation instructions. This is the cover page. When using power tools, always wear eye and ear protection. I would add to that lung protection. You want to protect your lungs as equally to everything else. You breathe in enough sawdust over your career, you'll feel it later in life. Door thickness, here are the specifications. This is all on the page that we were just on. Wood doors, they want you to use an auger bit in the end. If you're doing a metal door, a hole saw, you're just going to need to make sure that you get the hole saw down in there far enough. But you would, because with a metal door, you don't need to drill clear all the way through to the 2 1/8 like you do for a wood door. The problem with mixing and matching applications with your hardware, some people don't do it. They won't take their tool that they use on wood doors and ever use it on a metal door, a metal clad door, whatever it is. And it's because you get microscopic pieces of metal that are going to get fused inside of here. And it will or can show up on your work when you're doing a wood door. How do you convert from 2 3/8 to 2 3/4? It's these two screws as seen here. Adjust for 2 3/8 with the cap screws installed. For 2 3/4, remove them. Allen wrench is provided. Make sure that you have the hole saw guides installed per the correct application. Can be replaced when worn out or if a different size is needed. They are consumable. I don't know how often you'd really need to replace them. If you're going to 1.5 inches, you know what to do. Remove those. You've got the small Allen wrench for that. Wood doors. A brad point bit or auger may be used for the latch hole. Here are 2 examples of augers that can be used. It's got a couple of cutting wheels on both ends. This one has it in one end. They're both self-feeding. Be mindful of that. That'll draw the bit into the workpiece. You can also use a 1-inch diameter twist bit. I wouldn't. I'd like to be able to score the wood as I'm cutting through it. Makes the pieces that you're evacuating smaller in my attempt. Don't use a spade or a paddle bit or a multi-spur bit. You can really turn those in such a way that you are gouging into the sides of the bit, because this is 1 inch all the way down, as is this hole. A spade bit is a much shorter bit, and you'll end up kind of cutting into the edge of the tool itself. When Major says they will not work, they mean I've tried it. It doesn't work. So take their advice. Shown is a 1-inch Diablo brand auger bit sold by home centers. Diablo is a typical name. It will not work in our guide. It's a 1-inch bit, but gets smaller down to 7/8. I've never encountered that. But nonetheless they have. 1-inch hole saw if you're doing a steel door, sure. Here you go. Not all hole saws will fit the drill guide. There's a proper 2 1/8 inch bimetal hole saw. And when you have to get that core out of there, which you will, you'll kind of have to stick a screwdriver or flat-bladed tool down into these cooling slots. Measure, attach the door in the following manner. With the cantilever knob loose, clamp the door. Do not over-tighten or the clamp will splay out. So what they're saying is, get it onto the door, and with the main knob, you'll tighten it, but don't overly tighten it. Then you tighten the cantilever knob, because that will act to draw the plates back tight to each other. Then give your main knob another small little twist. Now you're ready to go. Obviously, in use, drill halfway, use a lower RPM, and back the bit out often to evacuate your wood, because you don't have anywhere for that to go. Go to the other side of the door and repeat. Your auger bit down into the edge if you're doing a wood door. Obviously, drill through the crossbore, drill through to the crossbore in one operation. The screw point on the auger bit will not allow it to pull out when drilling. Yeah, that's true. If you have an auger bit in a self-threading one, a self-feeding one, you won't be able to drill in a half-inch pull out, 2 inches, go back in. You're just going to keep moving through. The very wide sort of spiral on this allows those chips to move their way out, and you're not really removing that much material. At this point, if you wanted to continue using major tools, you'd use the HIT-49 LM3 latch marking tool. This tool can do 1 inch wide or 1 1/8 wide, depending on where you put the spacers, 2 1/4 tall. You're going to want to make sure it's square. Locks do not tolerate very well that preparation not being square. If you prep it on an angle, you'll have a lock that's likely not going to fit very well. This combination square there are 3 tools that every carpenter needs to have, every guy in a shop that needs to have: a caliper, a router, and this combination square. Mark that. Use a utility blade to complete the scoring. Obviously chisel it out. I would use a router. I wouldn't do it by hand unless I had to. Strike locator, that's their HIT-44 SL8. Stick that down through the hole and then it'll mark the jam. And that's really nice because you spend all this time and money getting the deadbolt prep done and then your strike is mortised out of place. Well, this allows you to know where that center line is. Install your hardware. That's all there is to it. Yeah, great work by the people at Major making these installation instructions. That's why there are so many pages, because you've got really huge pictures, really huge font. All right, there's I had mentioned earlier the product brochure. This is going to be just basically a cut sheet, and it's everything that we've already discussed, but it's nice, it's handy for you to review. There is a link below this video as seen here to the manufacturer's page, and from here you can pull up not only all of the major products we sell by means of this horizontal navigation as seen here, but also a link to the manufacturer's website, as well as a link to the manufacturer's catalog. And let's fire up that catalog. Now what you're going to find if you were to scroll through this, and if you're looking at the HIT-49, this document's going to be something that you'll want to bookmark, if not save it locally. The last 40% of the catalog is full of variations of locksmithing tools. Pardon me, the last 50%. Different ways to prep doors for a lot of different hardware, as you can see. The HIT-49 is just one way to fillet this fish, so to speak. There are several different approaches to how to do this through the major line. So if you're doing work out in the field, wood doors, metal doors, aluminum doors, the HIT-45 platform will allow you to do everything you need to do for mortise locks and function holes. The pocket, the function holes, the whole 9 yards. These kits are a different conversation, a different video. They require a different approach and some other things that are pretty important to know. But I'm a fan. The HIT-66, great little tool. You can make that mortise pocket in the edge of the door, whole 9 yards. Now, the first half of the catalog is security hardware. So if you're a locksmith or you're someone who's out there integrating hardware into your client's security concerns, you'll want to review this catalog again. They have items that no one else does. A key block, put a little safety measure over a knob or a lever to prevent someone from sticking the key into it. Yeah, we sell those. We stock these. They're that common that we stock them. Key trap, where you need to have 2 keys in order to get inside of this box to get the 3rd key out. Sure. I don't do a lot with those, but they absolutely exist. Cylinder guards for probably typically rim cylinders, you'd see this, with night latches. Latch protectors, security strikes. You get the concept. Let's wrap up this video on camera. Regarding the links to ads that you might see in this video, we do apologize for any interruption to a smooth viewing experience. And hopefully the ads that are being presented to you are related to the base product. And if there is something, feel free to click on those and perhaps consider taking a look at what that other advertiser is promoting. Let's get back to the video. Now, in conclusion, I am admittedly a subjective, not unbiased fan of Major. I know the people that are there. There's a couple of people. There's one gentleman in particular that I talked to, and it's just simple and straightforward. A very high-quality tool, quite frankly, made by someone who understands, the self-professed tool nerd, who understands what you're doing because he did it. in the field for years. And that's what allows them to know how their tools work. And there have been instances where I've called, and I've been machining doors for years personally and in the field and troubleshooting problems. And there's been times where I've called and said, I can't figure out what your intent was with this piece part. Okay, Rich, you know when you're doing this? Yeah. Well, you know when you do this? Yeah. Ah. So they really understand their tool, their product line, and it's because of actual experience. Behind every company that makes tools like this, you're going to find a guy like that. In my experience, whether it be this company, this, or this. But I have to admit, I don't know that they're all as... I know that they're not. Not all of them are as accessible as the people at Major. There's a couple others that are very accessible. But Major's just great on all fronts, and I'm very proud to be a distributor for them. Any questions on the HIT-49 or any other Major product, please feel free to reach out to us. And thank you. Again, thank you for watching, and if you've enjoyed this video, please click thumbs up, please subscribe, and maybe even send the video to someone that you know. Thank you. Thanks to our clients, Architectural Builder Supply is building an additional facility, and what follows is not only a look at the acreage that we're building the facility on, but also first the architectural renderings as they exist, or at least the architectural plans as they exist at this time. Thank you very much. Let's take a look. All right, let's take a look at the architecturals as they exist at this moment, or at least it wouldn't be proper to call these architecturals, but it would be proper to call them renderings in the sense of they're conceptual drawings, they're not renderings. So the entire space is going to look like this in terms of a site rendering. This will be a 22,000 square foot building, of which will have specific purpose areas. There'll be a workshop down here. This is a few thousand square feet that will be likely woodworking, metalworking, CNC, things of that nature. This will be an office area here, a private office area. This will be Architectural Builders Supply expanded storage area where we will be able to do fulfillment. The entire space in the center is going to be all of the volume, as I call it. Large components will be able to be stored in stock there. Machinery that's too large to fit otherwise may be put out here. Specific facility rooms, and then some recreation over here. Let's take a look at that drone footage, and thank you very much for taking a look.